guys have all been to one already, so I think you know the format. We'll have each student speak for 10 to 12 minutes and then have a couple minutes for questions and move on to the next one. So first is Brendon O'Reilly, who's going to be talking about the library elevating our production through light.
Thank you for the applause, everybody. Okay, so good morning, everyone. As Peter said, my name is Brendon O'Reilly, and I'm a lighting designer, so I am here to light up your morning. I know, good joke. No need to all laugh at the same time. So, very good jokes aside, I'm here to take you through my process as a lighting designer on The Library, which was a play that was put on by my school, Brendon College, last semester. So I want to show you the merits of collaboration and just take you through my design process. So just so we're all on the same page, I want to tell you guys what The Library is about. And to catch you up on the plot, we follow our protagonist, Caitlin Gabriel, a high schooler who has just survived a school shooting. She's blamed for informing the shooter about where other kids were hiding, leading to the deaths of those kids because someone else who was in the library where she was in said that he heard her say where the kids were hiding. Caitlin is ostracized as she fights to clear her name, and she questions if she's telling the truth. She's unsure, she's scared, and she's fragile. Here you can see different shots of Caitlin, one with her dad, one with a police detective, and one by herself calling her friend, trying to find out what the truth really is. So that's where we're starting off. So what am I working with as a designer myself? My first step would be reading the script, and after reading the script, I meet with my fellow designers, and we discuss what we're thinking and how to best work with one another. I had to keep everyone else's design in mind as I went along with my own, from the colors of costumes to what sounds are used, but most importantly for myself and my own lighting design, the set. I worked closely with the set designer and to make sure I understood the space to the best of my ability, keeping a close eye on certain set pieces such as those 4 tables right there and other things such as this wall with the hospital bed behind it and the bookshelf over here, just so you get a better concrete image of what that looks like. I just had to keep these certain things in mind as set pieces and think about how to best light them. Clearly I did a good job, but I want to show you how I got to that place. So just talking about the show and my designers doesn't exactly get me very far. I have to actually start coming up with this concept on my own, and I want to explain how do I do that and where I start. First off, I read the script again, and about 5 more times after that, just to go over what the setting is and be able to capture reference images for that setting. Pull on the lighting from that area and those images. You see here, there is a scene of the church. I wanted to see what the lighting was like coming through those windows and how those shadows were cast. A hospital scene with bright lights that come off of that. There's a scene where people are speaking to newscasters with police sirens behind them, how the light hits them from the back, how bright it is from the front from that news camera, candlelit vigils, how that light goes around them, that warmth, and looking at these to help me start to capture that feeling of the show and turning more of the vibe that I get into a practical design. And outside of that, I start to ask myself questions about the show to make my stray thoughts more concrete. Things like, if the show were a food, what would it be? I said mystery meat. And if I could watch it anywhere in the world, where would that be? If it were an insect, what would it be? If the show had a temperature, what would that be? And after going through all of that, I could nail down the core themes that are speaking to me and kind of looking at the show and say, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable, it feels oppressive, it's lonely in a way, but also lonely in the sense that everyone's watching you, but nobody really cares about you. I wanted to try to give off that concept in my design. And I came up with this at the start. And I know that you're all thinking this is just a piece of paper, but I have to say, it is just a piece of paper, but a very important one. So to the left on this side is the scene-by-scene breakdown, which shows what's happening scene by scene, and that helps inform my rough hookup on the right, which is the first concrete piece of my design. a rough hookup is a paper form of my initial thoughts. It shows the purpose, the color, position, and type of lights that I want to use, and it's the first piece of paperwork I make and informs all of my future work. It's really helpful. You can see here that many of the lights that I wanted to use had cool coloring, specifically this blue right up in the corner over there. And besides that cool, I also used a warm color, but I saved that only for flashback scenes. That amber was only for flashback scenes to juxtapose Caitlin's warmer past with her current cold reality that she was stuck in. And also you can see these templates here are called gobos in the business, but they basically just cast a shadow from the light, and I have many of these, and I try to incorporate them into every single scene to get across the feeling of, okay, I'm being watched, I'm never truly alone. The media is constantly on Caitlin's back, perpetuating this narrative that she personally knows isn't true or thinks isn't true. She's slowly becoming more unsure, but just to kind of hammer home in every scene, even if it's not being talked about, that people are looking through, people are peeking into her private life, even if she does not want that to be the case. Here's just a concept of the warm with the cold and how that looks different on skin. And even the warm is a little bit of an uncomfortable sort of feeling warmth, because the flashback scenes are about Caitlin's interactions with certain characters and how it led to her current predicament and her current colder reality that she's stuck in, as well as the other characters. No one's really happy in the show, honestly. And these are the gobos that you see on these tables. Each scene had something different depending on the location and the setting. So this is these are the library windows here, and on the left is for the publishers, or the publisher's office that they end up going to, and like office spaces such as that. So as well as using the windows to set a certain tone, I also wanted to use it to help establish settings. Since we have the same set the whole time, it's only tables, you need to help the audience kind of know where are we right now without being too ham-fisted about it. And this is the best part, which would be the amalgamation of all of my design and practical and conceptual. This is my light plot. This is how I make all my concepts real, and these show the instruments that I'm using, where I'm using them, what color they have, all the important info that you might need, and it lets me, it just shows me how to make a physical form of this, and I basically hang all of this up right above the space with the help of anyone who will help, and lead the charge on that. And just to get a closer look, because I know this just looks like a mess right now, you can see here on the left that these are lights over one of the tables. Most of them are meant for the gobos, going straight up and down, showing that window shadow template. You can see from top to bottom, we have what color gel I'm using. This is the unit number, the symbols in the unit. This is displaying what type of unit. This number is the degree or the size of the light, as well as the dimmer, which is where it's plugged in, and the channel number, which is how you control the light with the software on a computer. All this is very important, because if I don't have this concrete piece of paper, I will always be forgetting what I'm doing and what's going on. So this is basically a very good marker of how to go through everything. And on the right side is the lights that go over the hospital bed, also straight up and down, to kind of have that blaring hospital type of light for like emergency rooms or like operations and things like that. Yeah. And to put all of that to use and take the practical paperwork and give it a practical application, I start to write cues. And this is my cue list. Basically what that is just like a cue that you give an actor. It's me telling what lights to come in when. This is just a little piece of my cue list. This is 10 cues right here, but by the end of the show I had like 75 of these. So just going through, you can see what it's for, when the stage manager calls the cue, usually based off of a line that a character's saying, how long it takes for it to come up, and then sometimes how long it follows into another one, because sometimes I piece the cues together, but usually they're called individually. So yeah, I go through the show like this during Tech Weekend, which is when all of the design aspects come together and put their design into the show and work with the actors finally, so the whole process becomes one. Everyone meets at the start, they take the time to build it up on their own, and then we come back together and fit puzzle into one big thing. So altogether, from the first reading of the script to cue writing, and all of this helps to create this show, The Library. Here are different images from the show. You can see the window gobos for the church scene, which goes back to the reference image that I had way back when. Another showing of the library with the candlelit vigil. The candles on that were also part of my design. Anything that's making light is me. You can see behind the window this wall here that has a sheet that closes, showing just like the shadowy doctors working on Caitlin as she was injured during the shooting, as well as more images of, this is during the newscasting after the shooting, a victim's mother, as well as a student on the side. You could lightly see the blue behind her and the red behind him, as I had two different lights flashing red and blue to show like the police are behind them and they just escaped from this terrible tragedy that recently ensued, as well as more window gobos and the candles here, as well as another peek behind the wall. All of this takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Mostly effort because this whole process happened in a few months. And everything that you're seeing here, a lot of what you're seeing is just a draft of about 8 drafts each, and I didn't even have time to show you all of the paperwork. The light plot, that was the final one. I have like 8 of those just somewhere else. One of them still hung up in my school somewhere, no one's taken it down and just left it. So this is an amalgamation of all of those things and the process. I hope you were able to see what I was going for through my process and how I was trying to display the mood and the themes of the show through my lights and working with all of the designers around me. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Brendon? I have a couple minutes.
I love questions. Yes?
Is this automated, or is it something where different cues are triggered manually or triggered by something in the stage floor, or someone steps on something and it causes something to trigger the lights on?
Good question. So the way the cues work is that I will program them myself. I'll say these lights will come on and it'll take this long for them to come on, and that's basically all cue is. We then have a light board operator and a stage manager. The stage manager with a headset on will say, lights stand by. The person on lights will say lights in response to know that they're paying attention. And then the stage manager will say lights go, and they press one button. It's just like either says go or has an arrow on it. And then the lights will change from, let's say, Q5 to Q6. So you have to do it manually, but just being able to have each light set in the queue saves so much time and makes it from a one button, from a pressing a bunch of buttons, turning a bunch of lights on and off, to a just one button process.
So one cue might cause 10 different lights to go on,
Yeah.
and dim and do other things.
Yeah, so a cue, like, let's say we, scene's over, all the lights need to go out, we'll go from cue 6 to 7, now all the lights that are on are going out from one button, and that's just how I would have programmed it. Yeah?
How did you become interested in lighting design, and why do you like it?
I became interested in lighting design because my older brother used to do theater in high school, and he is a very stoic man, but I saw after he did the musical that he actually cried once, which I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And after he graduated, some of his friends approached me and said, we need someone tall to help hang the lights. Please help us. And I said, yeah, I'm tall, sure. And I saw how my brother felt, I'll do that. So I went through that process, came to college, and I figured, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm a psych major now, no more of that for me. And then I went, no, I want to give it a shot. So I emailed Rachel Budin, who's in charge of the technical theater aspects of her school, and I told her I had experience, and then the rest is kind of history. I just slowly became more invested in the process, and now I'm a theater minor, but that's where I spend all my time. Yeah?
Now, for the gobos, could you rotate through multiple ones from one lens, or did you have to have a different light source for each gobo?
I had to have a different light source for each gobo, which made it hard to get a good angle on it from the tables, and I just had to, then you saw the crowding above each table, so each gobo needed its own light, and I had four or five different ones, and so that was like 20 lights on its own just for the gobos to be over each table. There are some lights where you can like have different gobos in it, but yeah, we don't have the access to that technology. Yes?
What is your biggest obstacle, like set actors
biggest obstacle, this was my first college level design. I did it in high school, but this was way more official than anything I was ever used to, so I was basically a fish out of water. My biggest obstacle had to be keeping up with all the paperwork that I had to do and keeping it updated and making sure that I wasn't looking at old things or losing track of myself basically, because I had to learn how to use the software to make that light plot. I had to learn like how to make a good channel hookup and how to make a good cue list and then update it, and then my professor Rachel would be on my back. She'd be like, did you update the light plot? And I'd be like, I think I did, I don't know. So just trying to keep up to date with all of that was difficult and sometimes led to me losing myself, but I always found my footing at some point, and I would be way better off now if I did it again.
All right.
Just one
Yeah.
comment.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say thank you for showing me at least that the artistry that you think is on stage is only on stage, but there's so much more than that.
Yeah, there's a whole process behind it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys.
My other